Here we go. We got the draft analysis. Ty and I are going to be breaking down everybody's teams. Shout out Ty for these slides. They're looking beautiful. Ty, you want to say what's up and kind of talk through these slides?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, so the picks are organized in their speed tiers, sort of. They sort of like go from left to right and then follow down. And then on the left side of the page, we have our hazard setters at the top, and then our hazard removers in the middle. And then the bottom box is actually momentum for like the U-turners and volt switchers and stuff like that, just to show sort of how the teams are functioning in most games and whatnot. So yeah. Oh, and then the Terra captains have the red background, and then their Terra types are there as well. So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, we got the speed tiers. I mean, yeah, this is definitely an upgrade from last season's breakdown. So I'm excited about that. Thanks for putting that together. But yeah, let's just hop into it. We got GRAEME here. This team, I helped GRAEME kind of like theorize a little bit before the draft. He was talking about what picks he wanted first and kind of came to Walking Wake. And nothing better than a Walking Wake team with Sun. So just kind of paired that up with some other photosynthesis paradox mons and Torkoal, of course. And then just a bunch of other like bulky things that either have momentum or could set up hazards or remove it or whatever. But yeah, I actually really like this team. It's super, super offensive, and it's tougher to use that way, but it's really hard to prep against, is my takeaway from that.
Yeah, it reminds me. I know when we were talking about what we thought GRAEME was going to draft, we were talking about what he had drafted last season, and I feel like the first two mons just fit exactly what he did last, with like picking like a fast, strong attacker that can sort of just break through pretty easily, and that fits Walking Wake and Roaring Moon so well. His types match up pretty strongly.
Yep.
They cover each other pretty well for the most part. Starting with Walking Wake made a lot of sense because you can use it as a Terra captain, but he didn't have to commit to it right away. And then since Roaring Moon was there right after for his second pick, that just made so much sense for a second captain, and then to just snipe Torkoal right after to fully commit to the photosynthesis.
Yeah.
It was really smart. I mean, he didn't have to go that early, but better safe than sorry. I mean, at that point, you might as well, right?
Totally. And Torkoal's not a bad like mon even without the sun. Like obviously that's
exactly
a massive benefit, but it's got hazards, it's got removal, it has yawn, it's an annoying mon, and like you get value out of it even if you're drafting it that early. Yeah, like you said, his types are amazing, and his speed tiers line up really, really well. He has everything covered from 50 to 119, like that. And so when I'm talking about, and this is for everybody kind of newer to the speed tiers and everything, when I say you cover a speed tier, it means that you prevent anything in between a gap. So like 119 to 109 right here, Roaring Moon and Walking Wake. Any mon in between that gap has to run a speed boosting nature to not get outpaced by the thing below it. And so that's kind of the essence of speed tiers, is you are trying to limit the damage that your opponent is able to do to you just in the team builder. If you're able to force something to be timid instead of modest, you're already kind of winning. And so like we look at this, 119 to 109 they cover, 109 to 96. Jolly Mimikyu outpaces modest Walking Wake, right? So like Walking Wake in this case would have to be timid to outspeed. Obviously you can take some EVs out, but you still have to be a boosting nature, and that takes away from the special attack. So he really covered his bases, moving all the way down to 50 base speed actually, which is perfect. It's something that's really hard to do, especially since we're not playing with like a national dex with all of the mons available. Speed tiers kind of get out of control pretty quickly because you have to prioritize some other stuff on top of that. But yeah, really well done on that. He's got a really you can see down here, he has 5 mons with momentum, and probably 4 of them are going to run momentum every week that they come. like Parting Shot, Reveroom, U-Turn, Slitherwing, Volt Switch, Electros, and U-Turn on Braviary. Roaring Moon, if it's banded or scarfed or something, can definitely run U-Turn as well. But he has a ton of momentum to get into breakers like Walking Wake and Satitan, even Braviary. Yeah, I think this team is just super, super well-rounded. And I also think we're going to have a really good spike in Roaring Moon this season compared to last, with it having access to Terra now.
Yeah, it's going to be so much better. I had talked to Graham a little bit about Terra types, and he was really excited about Steel. And then we started talking about flying, and he really got excited about that one. I mean, going Terra Flying Acrobatics is crazy, and you don't even have to go booster energy because you can you can go band, you can do a lot of things now, especially with the photosynthesis boost from Torkoal.
Yep.
And then another thing I wanted to mention was Torkoal gives him a really nice defensive wall that he can just basically bring all the time. And then he also picked up Gudra Hisui, which is, I mean, a huge special wall, but you can make it a defensive wall too if you need to, just because of its typing and whatnot. So those mons can come like every single week, and then he can just sort of fill in the holes with the rest, which is pretty coool.
Exactly, right? Like, and Slitherwing and Electros cover that ground weakness that is shared between Torkoal and Gudra. So, like, you're not worried about your two things on both sides of the spectrum being like weak to an earth power or an earthquake, where you don't really want to keep one in front of whatever side. Well, you have Slitherwing and you have Electros that can come in on those ground moves and then pivot right back out after forcing out that scary ground mon in front of them. So this team's actually going to play really well for him, I think. And it commands like a ton of respect in the builder, because you just can't sleep on Walking Wake and Roaring Moon every week.
Yeah, definitely. And like you mentioned with the speed tiers, the anything above like 105 is sort of hard to come by in this dex. And with his first two picks, he snagged really solid picks in those tiers. So you're sort of forcing people to bring those mons that are like 125 or above 120 or even like 110, and they're not always the best mons. I know I was struggling to find stuff to pair with my first pick around those speed tiers, so having two really strong mons like that is really commanding. So
yeah, and both of them obviously can run booster energy speed or like Dragon Dance, where now you're bringing something that has to be faster than them, and then you also have to consider scarfing it because they might already be scarfed themselves or whatever. So yeah, that adds a lot to the team building dynamic too. But yeah, just overall really well done by Graham. Like this team's gonna be really cool this season.
And he also has a pretty good priority too, with Shadow Sneak on Mimikyu and Slitherwing as well. I guess Ice Shard on Satitan too. I thought Satitan felt a little out of place, but I mean, it's a cool mon, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah, I think if he can get it in behind like with momentum, and then maybe an opportunity to belly drum, or it could revenge kill with Ice Shard, or really just do a ton of damage in general. Of all the picks on here, that one probably does feel the most out of place, but for what it was like 9 points, you get a pretty decent offensive mon.
Yeah, I think the only thing like I would try, like if you were to replace it, maybe like a grass or something like that, so Slitherwing isn't your earthquake eating mon, because I don't think Braviary and Electros are going to come like all the time. So, but I mean, you don't have a whole lot on this team that's super weak to ground outside of well, I guess Gudra and Torkoal are weak, but I don't know. I think it's a really cool team. I'm just nitpicking.
Yeah, exactly. If we were to find a weakness on it, that's probably where we'd go. I don't know, maybe like a Brute Bonnet or something instead of Satitan. But
oh yeah, that actually worked really well.
I don't know if he has an extra point to spend.
Probably not.
Oh, he does. Okay.
He does.
Yeah, he's got 2 points. So
that'd be a really good suggestion then.
Yeah.
Gives you a nice Sporemon and really good in photosynthesis. So
yeah, I didn't even think about that till now. I looked at his team in Grace Period to see if we needed to change anything, and I was pretty happy with it, just because like his type chart looks pretty solid already, and of course adding Brute Bonnet adds a ton of weaknesses.
Yeah, it's weak to a lot, so I mean that's gonna happen. I
guess at the same time, Satitan being pure ice doesn't really make it any worse.
It does stack some weaknesses with Roaring Moon, but since it's the captain, I'm not super concerned about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe play a couple weeks, and that might be a change that goes through the waiver wire or something. But yeah, no, just great job to Graham. So we'll move on over here to Joe, and he got his boy Reggie Alecki, first overall Terra captain.
A few of his boys.
Yeah, exactly. This is a Joe squad if I've ever seen one. My main note on this was those top 4 mons are so scary. Like, what are we doing? How did we allow those top 4 mons? Like, that's just so ridiculous. Man, yeah, great speed tiers. Like, obviously, Alecki's going to be able to run a ton of HP every week because nothing can really catch up to it, even with a Scarf. He's got basically the 2 best hazard removers in the game in Reggie Alecki and Great Tusk. Great hazard setter in Cleaver, great hazard setter in Meowscarada. A ton of physical offense, and that's kind of the first nitpick of the team, is that specially offensive. His strongest special attacker without like a transistor boost, just off of base stats, is actually Palafin. And that could be tough, because I don't know if you noticed this, but I have never seen a more weak team to Will-O-Wisp in my life.
Yeah, I mean, there's no fire type to eat it up either.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. Or Gutsmon to scare it away or something like that, which does stink. Yeah, the no special is a little unfortunate. I mean, like, Dragalge's special, but an adaptability helps out a lot. And since it's not his Terra captain anymore, like it was last season, I guess the adaptability probably is going to come into play a little bit more.
Sure.
Because I know it would lose its boost last season on a few of its moves. But yeah, I mean, I think getting another special attacker would help out in the long run, but I don't know. I mean, the top 4 is so scary. You can probably make it work.
Yeah, I mean, and there's an argument that you don't really need that special attacker. You bring like 5 physical mons, like Cleaver, Gallade, Meowscarada, Palafin, Great Tusk, and then Alecki as your 6th. And then you just use the physical stuff to overwhelm the answers on the other team, and then they have to use that special answer at some point, and then Alecki's able to clean up after that's gone. You know, I guess there's an argument for that. That said, I would prefer to have 5 special attacking mons and 1 physical cleaner at the end, just because burn is too OP. Like, there's no special equivalent of that. So, like, you get a flame body, you get Will-O-Wisp, and you know, his faster stuff like Meowscarada and Palafin. Palafin not too much because of Jet Punch, but like T-Wave is super annoying to them as well. That said, Terra Ice on Reggie Alecki is going to be super hard to play around. There's going to be a ton of mind games. You're going to have to get lucky. It's going to have so much bulk and HP that it's not really going to die to one hit. I just really, 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 really wish it was something other than Terra Electric as the second Terra type.
He and I talked a bit. I think he's going to change it at some point, but he doesn't want to give it a go. I think he just wants to blow up some stuff with Terra Electric.
I get it. I mean, the power is amazing. Like, there's no denying that. It's just the normal, grass, dark, ghost.
Normal is a really cool one.
Flying, water, fire. I could name so many types that I would prefer to have over it.
Yeah, I mean, the one cool thing about Terra Electric is that now it gives it a decent physical move without killing itself, which is pretty cool.
Okay,
if he had more
sure.
special attackers, maybe he would go the physical route with it. So maybe he won't be doing that as much, but if he has a weird matchup where maybe they have a really specially defensive, like, I don't know, grass type or something like that, then you go on the physical side. And like Electric blows up the rest of the team. Obviously,
Right.
in that case, you would probably want to go Ice, but you know, something like that where whatever's going to wall Lucky is on the special side, not the physical. So you go physical Terra Blast, Electric, and just fire off some crazy hard moves.
Yeah, I don't hate it. It's so painful. Like, I see the vision, I just don't agree with it. But yeah, once again, like Joe drafting a team that's just going to be so hard to prep for. Like I don't really know with my team. I mean, Great Tusk Walls King Gambit essentially. I got to deal with like Jet Punch with my Spectre and everything. So like I don't really see exactly how I'm playing through it. It's a really difficult team to build against. Plus you can't really set up because of Ditto. So like that's super challenging as well.
Yeah, Ditto is a really good pick for Joe. He's super comfortable using it too, which is going to go a long way. So when you have those top 4 mons and then Ditto, and then fill in the gap with Cleavor, Gallade, the Dunsparce, Dragalge, and Drifblim. Drifblim's pretty niche, but the other 4 can come most weeks and be pretty scary.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing about his top 4 is that they are so good and they can come all the time. And he has 2 hazard setters in there and 2 hazard removers, and he has momentum on 3 of those mons. So he covers basically everything he would want out of those, which is pretty cool. So then he can literally just fill in the holes with the rest. I would like to see a fairy resist, or a dragon resist somewhere on the team. It's unfortunate that there's no fairy on here or a steel.
And his only flying resist is Aleki, which is going to be Terra Ice most of the time.
Sure, but like he does have so much offense that he doesn't have to worry as much about his resistances and whatnot. He played that style last season and it worked pretty well for him. I think that was probably the most comfortable he had been piloting any of the teams. So I think it'll work out. But
no, that was a massive jump. It was a massive jump in his like skill set, being able to play offense last season, because I think he really just relied on like physically or like walls on both sides of the spectrum the first couple seasons, and not really being aggressive enough through there. So forcing his team last year to be prediction-based and hyper-offensive and not really have a whole lot of defensive switch-ins, like got him thinking a couple steps ahead. And yeah, that's really going to suit him well for this team for sure. I guess the only issue is like defensive like core of Great Tusk and Dragalge, and maybe a little bit of a Dunsparce. Like both the 2 main ones share a psychic weakness, which is going to be kind of tough without Terra on Dragalge this season. And he has Meowscarada to switch into psychic type attacks, but that's also super risky, so it's not like how with GRAEME having his walls be both weak to ground and then having amazing ground answers. I don't love the psychic answers for his defensive stuff.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense. One of the other things I just realized is that he also has a ton of knockoff, which is really cool, especially against if you're playing Joe, you are likely to run a Scarf to maybe try and catch an Aleki on one of your faster mons or something like that. And knockoff is going to help out a ton, especially for Ditto too. If that'll allow Ditto to help outspeed other Scarfers if it's not the fastest Scarfer in there.
Yeah, no, great point.
Depending on what it transforms into and whatnot. So
for sure.
I mean, I think that'll help whittle stuff down and whatnot. But yeah, I'm excited to see how it plays. I think it's going to be one of those things that's just going to work a lot better in practice than it does on paper.
Yeah, and that's going to be the theme of all of this is, we can try to analyze these teams and kind of nitpick as much as possible, but like we haven't seen any matches played yet, so it's really, at the end of the day, it's up to the coach. Like last season, I didn't really have the best team, honestly. Like I was a little disappointed in my team, but like I figured out little things I could do week by week that ended up making it viable and obviously going to the championship. So like it's just in the coach's hands, and it's draft league. You can get creative and make it happen.
Yeah, and those mons all have a lot of potential to do a bunch of funky stuff. So
that is for
cool
sure.
One to get creative with.
Yeah, I want to see some Fury Cutter out of Cleaver this season.
Absolutely.
All right, so we'll go on to E next. E had the awesome draft strategy of, I'm not going to be there until it's my pick, so just hopefully what I want is there, and we'll just keep it moving. Thankfully, it came down to his pick, and both of his first two on the wheel was exactly what he wanted, and they were there. So he went with Sneasler and Golden Go. This team, as you can see on the left side, a bunch of amazing hazard setters, especially Mew and Lando. And then everybody has momentum on his team. Like, it's just insane. That said, he does not have any hazard removal. So this team is going to be very heavy-duty boots reliant. I can already see that happening. But yeah, I'm scared of this team. It's super ground weak, but then he has Rillaboom to neutralize that, along with having, amazing ground type switch-ins in Lando and Hydreigon in the first place. What else do I have here? Oh yeah, Grassy Terrain Unburden on Sneasler, being Terra Fighting and Flying, get that Unburden boost, and then outspeeding everything, including Alecki. Then like Mew, this gen not being able to be like that defensive mon that you really want. He's got screen support from Morgrem, and then he can use Mew with maybe like a Grassy Seed and then start doing some sort of like Calm Mind or Nasty Plot agility sets with stored power. This team is so threatening on paper. He doesn't really have a weak mon. Like, obviously he's got a 2-pointer and a 1-pointer, but both of them can do stuff.
Yeah, they can come in the niche kind of week where nothing else is matching up super well and you need something a little extra.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what he does with Mew. I think this team allows it to try and do a little bit more. Since he has so much offense already, he might be able to make a defensive set work if he's going more the hazard stacking route or something like that. Since he doesn't have removal, maybe trying to force your opponents to defog could help out. Well, I guess. Well, you have Goldango too, so.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's just get hazards up and live with them.
Yeah.
Preventing spins and just making it annoying for the opponent. And if they do end up getting a defog off, that helps you in the end of the day too. It sucks that like Volcanion is probably going to have to be boots every week. There's not really another option for it. That said, like, the rest of his team's not super weak to hazards or anything. He can probably get away with not running boots on a lot. Now I'm looking at it.
He's got Grassy Terrain to help get some of that health back from taking hazard chip on the grounded mons, at least.
For sure.
So that helps out quite a bit. But he's going to have to run some boots on some things because some of these mons are a little on the frailer side. I guess Sneasler is probably the main one, and Hydreigon are probably the main ones that are going to be worried about it. How do you feel about the flying and fighting Terra on Sneasler?
I like it. I think flying is probably the most reasonable that you go on Sneasler, right? Get rid of the ground weakness and then boost like acrobatics or something with Unburden. Like that works really well. Plus it's like a decent defensive type to get up like an SD if you're not even running like Unburden and you just want to get like some Poison Touch Dire Claw action down. Terra Fighting, like I think I was in between Terra Fighting and Terra Ice mostly. So like obviously it's a 130 base attack, Terra Fighting close combat. That's going to do insane amount of damage. But there are certain things that Sneasler can't actually break without like a super effective move, that maybe having a little bit more coverage with like Terra Ice, Terra Blast would have been useful. He does have Landorus T, which is one of the biggest things to check Sneasler in the first place. So like that opens up a lot more opportunities for him, and honestly probably makes it so Terra Ice isn't as necessary. But yeah, I see the vision with flying and fighting. I think that's probably the best two that he could have went with. I don't know if you got any other ideas.
No, I hadn't really given it too much thought for Sneasler. Flying, yeah, it definitely makes a lot of sense. I think I agree with you on the fighting. Like, it's gonna hit really, really hard, but I feel like it probably would have already handled those things, unless there is something I'm missing. But yeah, I agree. I think getting the extra coverage type might be a little more beneficial in most matchups, but I mean, it's still going to hit really hard. So
Yeah, and like Terra Dark was another option, but once again, he got Golden Go on his team. So like Golden Go and Landorus are like the two best Sneasler answers, and they're both on his team. So yeah, that's just good team building right there.
yeah, definitely. Let's see, what else was there?
I'm just seeing screens with Iron Thorns and just letting Iron Thorns cook.
Yeah, and he has so much momentum too, so he'll be able to get those things in really easily to set up, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I think a nice bulky Rillaboom is going to help him out a ton in most weeks. Just around like Leech Seed, Protect, and Knockoff and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I see most weeks he goes with that momentum team that's already built in down there: Sneasler, Hydreigon, Rillaboom, Mew, Lando, and then an Iron Thorns or Golden Go as like the 6-mon most weeks. Maybe subbing in Volcanion for Hydreigon or Mew or whatever. But like, I think he's going to bring that top core. Obviously, he has 2 mons that add together to be 3 points, so like they're less likely to come. But I think you still have to be ready for the option of screens and everything. Plus, screens and Golden Go work really well together too, since you can't defog into it, and it's also immune to Brick Break. That's another option.
Yeah, and since he has really good screen setters outside of Goldango, it makes it so Goldango can be more offensive. I know a lot of times when I was trying to build with Goldango on some mocks, I felt like I was always just like relying on it as a screen setter, and I wasn't able to take advantage of its massive special attack stat.
Yep.
So I think that'll be pretty cool having it with Mew and Morgrem to help out with that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is another... Once again, everybody's getting so good in this league that everybody's building teams that aren't just like total trash. Like there's no gimme anymore.
Yeah, he will have some fun with it. He always seems to pilot the stuff really well that he wants to pick, and since he got his first 2 picks, I'm sure he's got some cool stuff planned.
100%, yeah. Well, let's go on to TOAN, his first week 1 matchup. And TOAN's team, I think, is going to be the team that breaks my theory that speed tiers are so important. This team is ridiculous, and it's good and bad in different ways. So as we can see from the speed tiers, this was the first thing I got to touch on here. He's got 3 at base 100, 3 at base 50, 2 at 35, a 33, and a 29. So like I said with the speed tiers, you want to kind of cover these gaps. That way things can, they have to run speed boosting natures to outspeed you and not hit you as hard. That's going to be an issue with TOAN defensively, is that he's not going to have timid psychics coming in onto his Toxapex. They're going to be modest now. He's not going to have jolly earthquakes on Garganackle. They're going to be adamant. Like, things are going to be hitting a lot harder because they don't have to go speed boosting most of the time. That said, he has hazards everywhere. Like, he's going to be able to get hazards up and start chipping. Then he's got Trick Room everywhere. So Cocaine Terra Bear is just going to absolutely shred through people. And if you decide that, okay, yeah, I'm going to go modest, that way I can, hit harder or whatever, well, now you're taking out, say you went with a speed boosting nature and you didn't have to put speed EVs into your mon. Now you're taking out stuff from HP, and Terra Normal Facade off of gut boosted Ursaluna is going to blow through you without that extra bulk. Plus, he's got like the chain Trick Room, which is a very like popular ladder style Trick Room where you lead with something that can set up rocks and Trick Room. So Bronzong, get up rocks, Trick Room, and then get into one of your Trick Room abusers. Then, after that thing does its thing, you go into Hatterene, and then you Trick Room, and then you Healing Wish that Trick Room abuser back up, and then you let it do it all over again. And that stresses teams so badly, because we did draft 4 speed tiers. We didn't draft, we weren't trying to counter team Trick Room or anything at any point. I know I wasn't. Maybe somebody had that idea. I should have. But I don't have stuff that continually can eat stuff from Ursaluna. It's going to be a lot of prediction, and you just got to hope you get lucky every now and then. Then on the flip side, you got Chi Yu and Zapdos on the higher end of the speed tiers that are just going to blow things up specially. And this could be a situation like Joe's team where you focus a lot of physical defense to handle like Ursaluna and stuff, and then the special breakers, Chi Yu and Zapdos, end up taking down those physical mons, and then Ursaluna can clean up in Trick Room in the end game or something like that. So that was long-winded, but I have a lot of ideas with this team.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. And he also has Hatterene too for especially. It's easy to forget how strong that thing is.
Yeah, 136.
That'll help out a ton for Zapdos and Chi Yu, which is pretty cool. And I think Toadscroll's a really good hazard remover. And obviously he has Hatterene too to help with Magic Bounce, which is pretty good. I would like to see a little bit more momentum on stuff, but
that's my biggest nitpick. I emphasize the speed tiers, but yeah, I think more significantly, not being able to get Chi Yu and Ursaluna in without that momentum is going to be pretty tough to play around. Ursaluna, of course, can come in, eat a hit, and eat a second hit, and then still get a kill. But it can't do that throughout the whole game. Like that, it's good for one kill in that sense, and it can't really do much after because it's too slow. Chi Yu, if you get that in on a physical hit, I mean, good luck. You know, I would really want some slow momentum to get that in, like a Slow King or something. I don't know. Like, I don't know exactly what else is really viable that he might be able to pick up later on in the season to get some slow momentum. And maybe he doesn't even need it because Trick Room is just going to be so OP. But yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest challenge, is just figuring out how to get your strong mons in there safely.
Yeah, it's going to require a bit of positioning, not just because of the lack of momentum, but just because getting Trick Room up and using all the turns well is pretty hard. But if done right, I don't think a whole lot of teams can handle it very well. I don't think there's a whole lot of threats on other teams that do well in Trick Room that I can think of off the top of my head. But
yeah, I mean, if I run like a minus Speed Nature King Gambit, like that would look pretty solid here.
Yeah.
But even then, like, there's still a mind game like of Terra Ghost and normal and Ursaluna. If I go for a low kick into a Terra Ghost, I'm goobed.
Yeah, and there's really good Terra types too for Ursaluna, so that makes a lot of sense. It's going to be scary and hard to prep for.
Yeah, but that's going to be it for this video. We're just breaking down 4 teams at a time. We're going to go with like the week 1 matchup. So as we see, it was TOAN and E, and then Joe and GRAEME are playing each other first this week. But yeah, stay tuned for the next breakdown of the next 4 teams, and then we'll have one after that too. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this new format and everything. Ty, thanks for hopping in here with me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
Peace.